Hello, I'm Jenny Maloney, Strategic Account Manager at Bayer Vegetable Seeds. You may have heard me on episodes 42 and 134. Bayer is pleased to support the Produce Moms podcast. Seminis and Durator have long provided industry-leading solutions to help vegetable growers in both open field and protected environments. That commitment to quality continues as we unite these trusted brands under one brand platform, Vegetables by Bayer. This new brand platform reinforces our commitment to providing the highest quality seeds and cutting-edge solutions to help growers face today's challenges. We're bringing together our best-in-class experts, research, and innovation. I hope you'll take the time to visit the new Vegetables by Bayer website and learn more about our commitment to growers. Together, we can grow healthier businesses in a healthier world.
Welcome to the Produce Moms podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Hello, everybody. It's Lori with the Produce Moms podcast, and I am so excited. This is, we don't do a whole lot of live special events, and today we're here live from San Diego at the Western Growers Annual Meeting. And, I attended this event. This is the first time I have ever attended the Western Growers Annual Meeting. So big thank you to the team at Bayer who made it possible for me to come out here and learn more about the critical issues that growers are facing. And in turn, that's going to make the Produce Moms a better steward for educating the end consumer and driving that advocacy for the whole supply chain. So this has just been an incredible event. I have learned so very much. And we're actually coming to you live from San Diego at Western Growers. It is now, day 3 of the 4-day event. And I am joined today with Jenny Maloney and Marshall Sewell, two of my dear friends and professional colleagues from Bayer. So I'm going to let the two of them introduce yourself, and then we're just going to share a little bit of candid conversation on what this event means to our industry and our key takeaways. So Jenny, we'll start with you on intros, and please say hi to everyone.
Great. My name is Jenny Maloney. I'm the Strategic Account Manager for the Americas at Bayer Vegetable Seeds.
So glad you're here. And Marshall?
Hello, everyone. My name is Marshall Sewell, and I'm currently serving as the Strategic Accounts Manager for our U.S. open field vegetable business.
Isn't it amazing how they have these real world titles, and I'm just here hosting the Produce Moms podcast, but...
Boss lady.
Oh, come on now. All right. So very excited to be here. And so we're just sitting here at a round table. Let's just kind of kick this discussion off. Jenny, how many times have you attended this event?
This is my second time attending. I would have attended it more, but my maternity leaves have always seemed to fall during Western Growers Annual Meeting. So second time in my backyard, but I've been on other committee meetings for them. But it's really like a top-notch event. Great speakers, great conversations, great content.
I completely agree. And Marshall, I know that I've learned so much about your background this week. You've been involved with Florida agriculture really your whole life. How many times have you been to Western Growers? Because, Florida's not necessarily the Western Growers target demographic.
No, this has been an interesting experience because, as you said, I grew up farming with my family in Florida. And so historically, all I've ever known is Florida agriculture and Eastern U.S. agriculture. So taking on this role and getting to work with Jenny, I've got the chance to work across the entire United States. This is my first time at the Western Growers event. And while there are so many differences, it's also really interesting to see the similarities amongst produce growers across the country.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely feel like some of the things we're discussing here in terms of the critical issues that farmers are facing, the crises that we're trying to solve together, it really is it's a universal domestic agriculture situation here. But So Jenny, I think we probably need to, for anyone that's with us that is unfamiliar with Western Growers, do you mind, you explaining what this organization's all about? Bayer's been a big supporter of Western Growers, and you've been single-handedly pretty, very involved with that relationship with Bayer and Western Growers.
Yeah, so Western Growers represents many of the growers in the Western United States, and some of those growers do actually grow in other parts of the U.S. too. They have part of their organization that is focused on outreach, advocacy around various issues impacting growers. So that could be issues related to water, labor, insurance, legal issues, transportation, infrastructure. Western Growers has some new initiatives around automation. So they have their Western Grower Center for Innovation and Technology, but they've recently done work on their Harvest Initiative, which is really focused on how do we have more automation, and especially in a time with limited labor availability, how do we look at automation in agriculture? And so they're multifaceted in the topics that they cover. And they also have a separate arm too that does a significant business around insurance for growers as well.
I have noticed that, banks, insurance companies, and really people probably don't realize how critical those two stakeholders are in the domestic food security and supply chain. Marshall, I don't know if you want to shed light on that by any means, or if we want to kind of dive into what the agenda entailed, but you come from a farming family, so maybe a few remarks on just how important that access to capital and security is for, the ultimate risk takers, the farmers.
Well, to speak specifically to the finances, I know just from my personal background, the way our family managed the business back home in Florida, it was always nice whenever you had enough money in the bank to kick off your upcoming season. But it really did take some of those credit loans or the vendors who would provide financing to help kick off your season and essentially help bankroll you through the year. So extremely valuable within this business, but then also it extends so far beyond just the creditors and the finance piece. As Jenny was saying, organizations like Western Growers, they serve as such a broad resource on so many topics and providing help to our growers within this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we were all sitting together during that opening keynote, and wow, just eye-opening is how I'll describe it. And I hope I'm saying her name correctly. Magat Wade, is that yeah. She was phenomenal. Yeah. And Jenny, you have some key insights because you've actually, she was... Well, I'll talk here a little bit, and then I'm going to turn the mic to you because you've actually been to the region in Africa where she's from. Mm-hmm. So you have that firsthand experience of witnessing her hometown and really what is the basis of what she does. But her current business is Skin is Skin, and she talked about just the critical importance of a free market. And really the critical importance that American agriculture plays on the entire globe's food security and economic prosperity. So I'll let you share some of your key takeaways from that opening keynote. But I will say I was very moved by it. I just, she was amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think... So Maguette's from, she didn't say exactly where in Senegal. Where I had been in Senegal was Dakar. And I, when she started talking, it really brought up a lot of previous memories because when I used to work at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the reason why we were in Senegal was part of AGOA, which is the African Growth and Opportunity Act. And what that does is a partnership with about 38 countries in Africa that really tries to promote trade from those countries because and she was talking about it, there's several issues that she faces. So tariffs for countries that she's exporting to. She talked about some of the ingredients that she uses in her lip balm and that she tries to source as many ingredients locally as she can. But she also has to source some other ingredients from neighboring countries and the challenge of getting those products in. But then once they finish their manufacturing process and finish some of these lip balms, as they send them out to other countries, 200% tariffs on certain things. And also some of the ingredients that come in, tariffs coming in. And so AGOA, which she referenced to, is an opportunity for that reduction in tariffs for certain products. So that's sort of one aspect of the challenges she talked about. But she also talked a lot about the other challenges that she faces in her country around supply chain and lack of infrastructure and shipping and, actually some of the things that we're talking about in the U.S., but tariffs really being a huge challenge to being an entrepreneur in the country that she grew up in.
Yeah, she was moving. She talked about she was a member, I believe, of the Atlas Network. Is that correct? That think tank that she referenced. She educated me on the European Union sustainability versus the United Nations sustainability and the various research that she's been involved with. For anyone that's wanting to learn more, she's got a book coming out called The Heart of a Cheetah. And she was involved in, I believe, has a role in the Poverty Inc. documentary. So I've actually downloaded that to watch on the flight home to Indiana. But yeah, I mean, Marshall, we were sitting right next to each other during that session. I don't know if you have anything you want to add about the keynote.
All in all, I was just impressed to hear just some of her stories and some of her background, but her take on free markets, capitalism, and how it could impact developing countries was very interesting. But one thing you mentioned, Lori, was whenever she brought up her outreach to children and her outreach to people back in her home country and trying to help develop young entrepreneurs and enable people to make more of themselves. And she made one comment that was, in our modern world, the ABCs alone aren't going to cut it. And she just alluded back to her entrepreneurship program that she was trying to provide back to kids in her area. And I found that very interesting.
Yep. And it's so true. The ABCs aren't going to cut it. That could be maybe the overall theme of this event, because there is so much work to be done and so much unity that needs to happen to get to those, areas of solution or the finish line where we can tackle some of these problems that are facing domestic ag. So then we went to the next item on the agenda was the PAC lunch, the Political Action Committee lunch. And Marshall and I did not attend that. Jenny, you did. Any remarks you'd like to share on that?
Sure. So Gordon Ching was the speaker. I hadn't heard him speak before. Excellent speaker. I saw him at the coffee break today and pulled him aside so I could ask him some of my questions.
Classic Jenny right there.
I did allow him to finish his muffin before I really went in for them, but he's a attorney, graduated from Cornell Law School, lived in mainland China and Hong Kong for close to 2 decades, and he worked as a partner and counsel at Baker McKinsey and a few other firms. And he's a China expert. He's given briefings at the National Intelligence Council, the CIA, the State Department, the Pentagon, testified before the United States House Committee on Foreign Affairs, and just an expert in everything China. And it was really, really interesting to hear him talk about where he sees the U.S. and China relations going, what China is doing regarding agriculture, what's happening with supply chain disruptions, how long he predicts supply chain disruptions to continue past 2022 into 23. And the concept of deglobalization, and are we in a period of deglobalization, and what will that mean? Will that help or hurt China? And then really talking about China entering into a new era of food insecurity. So they have a significant strategy to be more food secure and less dependent on imports. And so the investments that they're making in water and other technology to try and become more food independent.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Everyone said it was a moving lunch. Don't really want to misrepresent the level of emotions. Most people walked away with it. It's like eyes wide open, maybe a little bit of a heavy heart. Yeah. But I'm not a China expert. I'm not a foreign affairs expert, but I would just say that it appears from his comments that China and the U.S. are in a sort of a testy period with our leadership. And there are some moves that China is making that some of our national security advisors and some of our military are
are concerned about. So while we spent a little bit of time focused on agriculture, really a lot of it came down to the president of China and the political situation in China and really how he manages his party and his relationship with Biden and previous presidents. So it was really, moving. And I have to say, I didn't realize where we were in our relationship with China, that it was at that level of that strained.
Yeah, an area of concern for every industry, but most definitely food, because one thing this industry has taught me is food security is the ultimate national security. We must have a strong farming economy. And that kind of came through loud and clear in every session. And moving on to that next session where, again, Marshall, we were sitting right next to one another, and Jenny, we pretty much were the three amigos this whole week. But the next session was on a topic that just, I mean, as long as I've been in this industry, we've been talking about it. It's been almost 2 decades now that I've been privileged to work in fresh produce, and, water, and probably more poignantly stated, the water crisis is a topic of concern. And we had an entire, hour and a half long session dedicated to that. So someone who's been farming forever, and Marshall dropped some truth bomb knowledge on me. I thought that the water crisis was really just something that California was dealing with. And he educated me like, nope, we have that issue in Florida too. But of course, here at Western Growers, we do focus on that California, Arizona region of ag. But Marshall, any takeaways or highlights that you'd like to share about the on a dry horizon water and agriculture in the West?
I think you hit the nail on the head talking about security, whether it be food security or you look at the greater picture of national security. So water falls into that subject. And that was something that was really stuck out to us. I think the three of us collectively talked about that whenever somebody brought up water being a point of national security. And you're right. We talk about it not just in California, but also in Florida, different specifics here and there, but ultimately challenges we're all facing. We have so much new urban development, more and more people building homes and things like that. So, of course, a lot of times water gets routed to residential priority. So then from a farm standpoint, everyone's sitting around trying to figure out how do we continue making our crops when preference typically goes to urban or residential areas. And so the question of if at some point we don't have the water to be making our crops, where does that food then come from? Hence the national security piece and food security.
Right. So a big thing that I took away was, this data is definitely eyes wide open. So 1999, I don't feel like that was that far away. I mean, that's when I graduated from high school, and that doesn't seem like that far away, even though my children would certainly disagree. They think I'm like a dinosaur. But okay, almost full in 1999, Lake Mead and Lake Powell. So those are the two primary reservoirs in Arizona. Almost full in 99. Today, 35% is what they've got in water. That is a drastic decline. And some of the statistics that they shared, for instance, with California, it's lowest ever for water in the state of California. So just some real concerns. And then to come back to those remarks about banking, remember they had some slides and remarks from the American Ag Credit, where banks around the globe are increasingly considering climate risk in the credit rating process. So I found that very interesting, and also, shed some light and importance on climate welfare and what we're doing in ag to make sure that we're protecting the environment. So, Jenny, Mike, to you for any closing remarks on that Monday, which was day 2 of Western Growers. Day 1 on Sunday, it was mostly just registration, welcome reception. People were kind of traveling into town. So Monday, that was what concluded our educational events on Monday.
Yeah, on the water event, it's sort of a depressing topic, frankly, because there's a lot of challenges and not a lot of solutions right now. I found Stuart Wolfe that his comments were really interesting, because when he makes decisions on what crops he's going to plant, and he was featured, he was part of a group of growers that was featured in a New York Times article earlier this year, where they were talking about he pulled out his almond orchards early. So usually they would have maybe like a 25-year life, and he was talking about how he pulled them out at the 15-year mark because he just didn't think he was going to have water. And without getting too much into the details about California water law, there's surface water allocations and then there's groundwater. And so he made the decision to pull his crop out early and grow processing tomatoes instead. And I'd never heard someone talk about it before, but he said they're making sort of long-term decisions on acreage and looking at returns per acre feet of water. So water is hugely impacting their decision on what crops to grow. And depending on where you are in the state, you may have more or less water, and it depends on your water rate. So there's a lot of complexity there. But the situation is, I think, going to, unless we have some really great wet years, it's a pretty dire situation right now for growers where they're going to look at having to fallow land. We continually get asked as a maker of vegetable seeds, can you create more varieties that have drought resistance, because they just are going to have less water. And now with Sigma, which again is a sort of a complex topic, but that's going to be groundwater regulation. That's going to restrict groundwater extractions as well, depending on where you're at and the groundwater condition. So it's a really big issue among some other issues that growers are facing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that kind of came alive here in the morning session of day 3. And I know that you guys had some opportunities with Bayer. You had your, what was it this morning? Like a stakeholder meeting or a sponsor meeting, something that...
There's a diamond sponsor of the Western Growers annual meeting. And so there are 5 of our sponsors. So the sponsors got together for just a breakfast meeting, just to talk about our commitment to Western growers, the association, the growers within the group. So it was really just more of a conversation about our commitment.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that pretty much everyone, if you're buying vegetables right now, or really any time, there's a real good chance that the company that's farming that vegetable and bringing it to your grocery store shelf, they're here at this meeting.
Yeah. If you have any requests for certain color produce or sizes or flavor, this is the group that's going to be making that decision and the investments.
Yeah, absolutely. So a true highlight for me, which I know that the two of you didn't have a chance to see the entire event, but a true highlight for me was the Ag Sharks Pitch Fest. And, that makes sense, right? Entrepreneurs, you get a high watching other entrepreneurs pitch their passion and then, make these dreams come true with investments. And that's exactly what happened this morning here in San Diego on day 3 of Western Growers. It was amazing. And they had over 100 entrepreneurs that applied for this opportunity to pitch the Ag Sharks. And it's S2G Ventures, I believe, is the name of the fund. They're a leading fund for investment in really all things that are advancing agriculture. And it's technology. Technology is what is advancing agriculture today. So the 5 businesses that had the opportunity to pitch themselves, I would say that they fell under a few categories. So like biological pesticides, the microbes, and I'll get into that in just a minute. Water as a service. So desalination was a big topic. Robotic labor. Again, labor crisis it's real. It's right up there with the water crisis. And then crop health technology. So like knowing before it's shown on the leaves of the plant what kind of threats the roots are dealing with. And so technology can actually help the farmers know that before it's visible to the eye, and really other technology that is more mainstream, that is focused on what's happening above the ground. So really fascinating for me. Biological pesticides. I had an opportunity to tour one of the a production facility in Indianapolis with Corteva. And the way that I would describe biological pesticides is it's kind of reminded me of kombucha. So I don't want you science people like laughing at me, but it's living, you know, it's a way where you're going to, and I think we all agree, consumer demand tells us everyone wants less inputs in their food. They don't want more chemicals. They don't want, but they, at the same time, they want beautiful food. They want farmers to, we want farmers to be profitable. We want to maintain our food security. So anyone who's tried to grow a tomato plant in your backyard, you know how hard that is. Like, you have to fertilize, you have to apply pesticide or fungicide. But at the same time, there is a common consensus. We want to have less inputs on the food. So this innovation that's happening around biological pesticides is really fascinating. And they were explaining during the Pitch Fest today that one of the biggest challenges in this sector is the shelf life. And so, similar to kombucha again, you ferment your kombucha, and then the good bacteria that occurs naturally in that kombucha, it does expire. It's meant to, yes, you create it, and then the longer it sits, the less potent it gets. And that's the same concept or barrier that's happening right now with these biological pesticides. So it was phenomenal. And it was actually 3Bar was the winner of it. Were you guys in the room when they announced the winner? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really, what a thrilling moment. And 3Bar they have a solution we actually linked it on the Produce Moms Instagram page, but 3Bar Biologics is the global leader in customized technologies and biomanufacturing solutions for living agricultural microbe products. Okay, what's that mean? Basically, they have this proprietary system that can maintain the shelf life, and so when that biological pesticide reaches the farm, it is as potent as the original formula was intended. And so these are using natural occurring compounds in nature to have the same concept of to have the same effect on the crop as your fungicides, herbicides, insecticides. So I'm looking at the two scientific people sitting with me and making sure that I describe that correctly. But those are my layman's Produce Moms terms and summary of that. But what a thrill. They got the $250,000 investment from S2G Ventures, and some great questions that came from the live polling in the audience, as well as from the sharks themselves. So you'll be able to read about that, on LinkedIn and in trade journals. And we shared some highlights on the Produce Moms Instagram page too.
Yeah. And just a little plug for Bayer in the biologic space. We do have products in that space as well. One of them is Serenade ASO. It's a fungicide, a tool that helps protect against soil and foliar bacterial and fungal diseases. So you can apply it at plant through chemigation, but it helps build a disease protection zone around the seed or transplant. And when used as a foliar spray, it protects crops against diseases, resulting in higher yields. So we do have products in that space, and it is an exciting area. I think if you talk to a grower, the challenge that they'll tell you with biologics is sometimes they want biologics to work as well as synthetic pesticides,
right?
And we're just not there yet. So definitely a tool in the toolkit for growers, but not.
And it's exciting to see that there's investment around it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Totally.
That is how it will advance.
Yep.
Because the efficacy is what it's all about.
Yeah.
And so that, yeah, I loved it. I love the ag sharks, and I loved to see that the 3Bar Biologics was the winner. It was great. So pretty exciting times. So let's talk about what's ahead, because we're actually right now, actually, there's a really cool philanthropy that's happening. And I know Jenny and Marshall, you all are going to be joining in with the volunteers here. So Jenny, you want to explain a little bit more about the philanthropic side of Western Growers annual meeting?
Sure. So they have this give back project. So they're partnering with the Foundation for Hospital Art and anysoldier.com. So the Foundation for Hospital Art will have to go there before lunch starts, although lunch starts in 2 minutes. So so you get to help paint and do artwork on this big mural, and then they're going to donate it to a local hospital. And then the anysoldier.com, they're going to send care packages, and you get to write notes to soldiers overseas. So it's a really cool event, benefiting those two organizations.
It's great. I love that. And, agriculture is such a charitable heart in this industry, whether it's food donations or great causes like this. The farmers really do care. Hey, if they didn't care, they wouldn't day after day go to work in the fields to grow us all food, right?
That's right.
Oh my gosh. All right. So some exciting things that unfortunately I got to fly back to Indianapolis, so I'm going to miss what's left here, but I know you both will keep me briefed. But let's give everyone a little preview of what's ahead. We've got what I think is this CEA concept, the future of vertical farming, controlled environment agriculture is what CEA stands for. That's coming up as this afternoon's featured session. So I don't know if either of you want to share anything about that.
I'll talk about it personally from a production standpoint and just from my ag background. Really curious to hear about it. Jenny made the comment, she used the term tool in the toolbox. And just curious to see how this vertical farming concept is going to be incorporated more so into current production methods. I mean, we're looking at supply chain issues and all of these different factors that impact production. And for any of your listeners who may not be familiar with it, the vertical concept is essentially farming indoors, where you're trying to take out some of that risk. But on the flip side, because of all the infrastructure and things that go into it, I'll go back to your credit and your lender comment. It takes a lot of money and a lot of capital to go into something like that. So just trying to better understand that system for production and how that fits into our current marketplace.
That's great. Well, with that, so there's a lot ahead. That's really the feature of the education later today. But with that, Jenny, I'm going to invite you to close out the podcast today. Big thanks to everyone at Bayer for making my attendance possible at this event. I truly learned so much, and I look forward to taking everything that I learned at Western Growers Annual Meeting and putting it to good use at the Produce Mom so that we can be a better advocate for the farmers. And before I pass the mic to Jenny for the closing remarks and the final goodbye of this special edition episode, I just want to encourage everyone, a way that you can help strengthen our domestic food economy is to seek out and purchase items that are grown by American farmers. So anytime you see that, born in the USA, grown in the USA, do your part and support our domestic farming economy. Don't think twice about picking up that food item. And that carries over throughout the entire grocery store. That's not a sentiment that is just with the produce department. And really, frankly, as you all know, we got to follow the sun with our produce. So you're going to see a lot of stuff coming from the southern hemisphere during the winter. And that's really important for that 365-day availability that all Americans want in the produce department for your favorite fruits and veggies. So with that, support your USA farmers with your dollars. And Jenny, I invite you for closing remarks.
Yeah, thanks. And eat more fruits and vegetables.
That's right.
The theme for the 2021 Western Growers Annual Meeting was Grow Together. And I think it really exemplifies the people that are here talking about, not only the challenges that the industry is facing with limited labor, supply chain issues, water, regulations, just all sorts of pressures sort of coming around, and at the same time trying to grow healthy and sustainable produce. So on the flip side, there were a lot of opportunities to hear about new technologies to help us get there and tools to help growers. So eye-opening in some regards, and then some hope and vision in another area. So great meeting.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to Lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.